connect and network. It's one of the most important aspects of your career. I think it can be very uncomfortable, but I think it's really important. And the more you do it, the easier it gets. Not only connecting with people that can help you, but connecting with people that you can help. I mean, trying to have kind of that horizontal relationship of maybe you're helping me now, but I can maybe help you in the future.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another Woman's Place interview. We are super excited to be here with Kristen and listen more about her and her life and her career. For those who don't know, Woman's Place is a program from She's the Universe, where we bring amazing women from around the world to talk about their lives, their careers, and hopefully inspire many other leaders, girl leaders around the world. This program is by She's the Universe, and our organization focusing on empowering girls around the world, empowering them to be leaders not only of their communities, but also of their lives. And I am Maju Valley. I'm the community manager at She's the Universe. I'm 20 years old. I'm from Rio, Brazil. And my favorite food right now, I think, it's very simple, but it's chocolate, just chocolate. I'm just in love with it. So I'm gonna give Kristen space. So hi, Kristen. If you can introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. My name is Kristen Hinckley. I'm from the United States, and I've been living and working in Peru and Switzerland in education. Nice to meet you.
Amazing. So to start this conversation, would you like to tell us what do you do?
Yeah, so I actually just started a PhD in public health. So I started in September. So I'm currently living in Switzerland doing the courses for the PhD, and my work for this project focuses on early childhood development. So we have a project in Peru that focuses on early childhood development in a rural area, and we work with moms and their babies to improve their child's development.
That's beautiful. And how did you got into this field? It was something that just happened, you stumbled upon, or it was something that it was more of a calling?
Yeah, it's actually kind of a long story, but it all started back in high school. So at the school that I went to, the senior year of high school, you were able to do a senior project, they called it, which could be anything that you wanted to do. I had some friends that made nutrition bars, some friends worked in a lawyer's office, and I was trying to figure out what to do. So I was trying to think about how to kind of combine all my interests together. And my interests at the time were sports, and girls empowerment, and Spanish. And so I was really looking for an opportunity like that. And I actually found there was an alum from my high school that had started an organization in Peru that teaches lessons to girls through sports. And so I actually was creating a sports curriculum for them to use in Cusco with these girls as part of my high school project. And I really liked it because I felt like it combined all of my interests, and I was kind of, a light bulb went off in my head, like, wow, you can find a job that includes all of your different interests together. So that was really exciting. So that was in high school. And then when I was in college, the school that I went to really promoted international exchange and study abroad and living abroad. So I got to spend 2 months in college living in Cusco, Peru, and actually implementing the curriculum that I had made back in high school a few years ago. So that experience was incredible because I was teaching the curriculum, so teaching sports, and then I also was teaching at a girls' school in Cusco. And those teaching experiences really are what helped me find my passion, because I was just struck by the value that the girls I was with really placed on their education. I felt like in a lot of other contexts I've seen or where I'm from, people don't value their education as much, but for these girls, they really knew it was kind of their way to advance their lives and develop. So I was really struck by that, and that's what has led me to where I am now.
That is absolutely amazing and sounds incredible. Is there any memories that you have, like something that is, every time that you think back of this time, that comes to your mind first?
The first thing that comes to mind actually is a little embarrassing to admit, but I think it's important to be humble and honest with these things. So I remember one of the teaching moments that I had when I was teaching back in when I was, I guess, 20 or so. And it was something that made me realize how hard teaching is. So I think that since this experience, I've really, really, really valued the work that teachers do and realized how hard it is and how important it is. So I was teaching English to 4 and 5-year-old girls in Cusco. And it was my first time teaching. And I wanted to teach them head, shoulders, knees, and toes. And they loved the song, but I wrote the words on the board and they don't read yet. And I will never forget the moment when I wrote it on the board and they just looked at me and I hadn't realized, okay, you have to teach this in a different way depending on, the level of your students and their age and everything, which seems very obvious. But as my first time teaching, I was so focused on, the material and what I was going to do in the song and how to make it fun that I hadn't thought about that very important piece. And so since then, I've really, really, really valued the work that teachers do. I actually taught kindergarten a couple of years ago in Peru, and that was another experience where I realized, it is extremely difficult to teach and to teach well. So
teaching is definitely one of the hardest things that you can do, and it's actually a really good skill, but it's really hard to nurture it and evolve with it. So it's nice that you have this experience. It must be really rewarding.
Yes, extremely. Yeah, teaching was probably the hardest job I ever had, but also the most rewarding. I mean, just to see the developments of your students and the love that they have and their excitement when they learn something new is an unbeatable feeling.
Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing all of that.
Yeah.
So after you did this amazing work at Cusco, what was your next step? Because sometimes I feel like when we find something that we love, it's really easy to feel like the fear of losing that thing and going backwards. So what was your next step in order to continue working in this amazing field?
Yeah, so I definitely agree with you. It is hard. You find something and you're like, okay, I need to find a way to continue doing this. So I actually just was pretty straightforward. I mean, I had taught in Peru and Cusco in college. And then when I was graduating college, I was trying to decide what I wanted to do. And most of my friends were going into similar careers in finance and consulting and New York, Boston, San Francisco. And I knew that I wanted to do something different. I wanted to get some more international experience because that's what I've always really enjoyed is traveling and meeting people from different cultures and seeing how different cultures, work and everything. So I knew I wanted to go abroad and I knew I wanted to go back to Latin America because of my Spanish and the experiences that I had already had there. And so I kind of made the big leap and decided to go back to Peru, which was really scary because it was really different than what a lot of my friends were doing, but I don't regret it at all. I think it was a really great decision, even though it was really scary. So I actually had a couple of friends from college that were from Peru, and they said to me, don't worry, you can stay with my family while you're there at first and help find your bearings. So I think knowing someone before I got to the country was an unbelievable help. They're amazing. And I think that was really important. So just following, what I wanted to do, but also finding a situation where I knew I would have some type of support network. I think that was really important for me to actually enjoy the experience that I had. Yeah, so that brought me back to Peru and that brought me to the school that I was teaching at as a kindergarten teacher.
That's beautiful and sounds scary, but exciting at the same time.
Exactly.
Thank you so much for sharing this. How did you got to this point that you are now of doing your post graduate studies and still being able to match that with the work that you're doing?
Yeah, so I think that a lot of it for me has really related to seeking out opportunities and people in the area that I'm focused in. So something that's really important to me is connecting with people that have similar passions or do similar work. So I did the kindergarten teaching, and then I was working, doing some kind of teacher observations throughout the country in Peru. And I worked with someone there that ended up going to the school where I did my master's. And then once I got to the master's, I found people that worked in education, that worked in Latin America, that worked in early childhood, and always kind of seeking out those people, seeking out research assistant opportunities, really expressing what I was interested in. Something that someone told me when I started my master's was, you have to kind of decide what your identity is going to be and really sell that. So people think to themselves, okay, Kristen, early childhood development, Latin America, like really, so people know like that's your focus. And I think that that was hard because I have so many different interests and foci, but that was something that was really important for me. So connecting with people, expressing your interests, because people actually really love to connect, especially when they have similar interests. So I did a lot of networking, a lot of emails, hey, we don't know each other, but I hear we have similar interests. I'd love to connect sometime. So I really tried to do a lot of that. And I think that was really helpful to kind of keep me on the path that I'm interested in. And that's how I got where I am. I mean, I had someone who said, oh, there's this open position. I know you're interested in early childhood in Latin America. You should apply. And so that's how I got where I am now.
That's really interesting. And one thing that I think that I hear a lot of time is like making connections and building the network. But it's something that for some people, including me, it's kind of hard to do because I don't know, especially when you're in the beginning, it feels like you don't know that the balance between like, okay, I don't want to seem that I'm only connecting with the person because of an interest that I want from them. But at the same time, well, I have this interest that I want from them.
Right.
So how to balance that? How did you deal with that in the beginning?
Yeah, I think some advice that someone gave me that I've really tried to follow is reaching out to people with similar interests, but not just when you're looking for a job. So doing this kind of way before you're even looking for a job. So for instance, right now, I don't need a job for another 3 years because my degree will take 3 years. So I'm still emailing people now saying, hi, I noticed that you work at X place and you work in early childhood in Latin America. I would love to connect with you and learn from your experience because I'm interested in this field. So whenever I send a networking email, I really try to focus on, I want to learn from them and based on our similar interests. So I think that's really important. I think sometimes people really like to talk about themselves. So people are actually excited to have kind of a more relaxed meeting throughout their day where they can just chat. And I think the other thing is that people actually, a lot of people, not everyone, but a lot of people had someone that helps them get to where they are. And there's kind of this feeling of giving back. So, someone helped me get to where I am, so I want to help someone else get to where they can be. So I think a lot of people feel that and are actually happy when someone reaches out and wants advice, because all they have to do is talk about their experience and any advice they might have. And I think people actually enjoy it. So those are two things I've definitely kept in mind: reaching out early and just wanting to learn about their experience, and then realizing they actually might enjoy it as well.
Is there any advice that someone gave you in the beginning, maybe when you were working in Peru or anywhere else that it sticks with you until today?
I think in addition to the two I just said, I would say in terms of career development, something that someone told me recently, one of my good friends, I was deciding on a new job recently, and my friend said, if it doesn't scare you, you shouldn't do it. And so I thought that was a really powerful message, because a lot of times we hear about a new job and we're scared. We say, I can't do all those responsibilities. I don't know how. I might not be good at it. But really, when you're scared is when you probably grow the most, because there are things you don't know how to do that you then learn how to do, and then you grow from there. So I thought that was something that has really stuck with me and kind of changed the way I view the fear that I have for new opportunities.
That is amazing. Thank you so much. I love that. I really do love that. Like,
exactly.
It's a really nice way
before
to
I'd be scared and I would not do it. And I'm like, wait a second, this is actually good. This means I care enough,
Exactly. I love that. So what inspires you to continue doing your work?
I think for me, I work in early childhood, as I've mentioned. So a lot of the work that we do focuses on the fact that every child deserves the same chance to thrive and to reach their full potential. And I think that's what really motivates me. I've had the privilege of growing up where I grew up, and I've gotten to live in different contexts and see in different situations. And I think that what I always come back to is, this little baby is born, and we should all have the same chances, at least from the start. And so that's something that really inspires me to work in early childhood. I also think lately, based on the COVID pandemic, I think that early childhood is one of the most affected areas because of the pandemic. So that's even more motivating to continue to be working in this field, especially now.
Thank you so much. It seems really interesting. Every time that I hear about early development, actually, I was seeing this TED talk recently. I don't remember when, where this woman was talking about early child development and talking about how love is more than just a concept. It's like something vital for them to thrive and
Right.
be a successful human. So it's really interesting. I'm really happy to talk with you about that because it's really nice and it's such a beautiful field.
Yeah. I mean, it's very important. It's also very fun. It's nice to be around moms and their babies. And the research I'm actually going to be doing focuses on how parents parent differently based on their cultural norms and their beliefs and their attitudes. So I'm excited to learn more about that. I think that's really exciting field to look into. I think you have all these parenting books about the best way to parent, but there really isn't one best way to parent, and everything changes based on your culture. So I think it's really very interesting to learn more about.
You're talking about that and working with moms and child. I wonder if there's any situation that you went through that actually taught you something that you took for your life.
I guess I would say my upbringing. So I come from a pretty big family. So I have got my two parents and I have 6 siblings. And so I'm actually the oldest of my siblings that are at home. And so I've always kind of felt like a motherly figure to them. I've always kind of been in that caregiving role. So I think I've always been interested in parenting and caregiving and development, especially seeing my younger siblings. We're all so different. And I find it intriguing how you can be so different yet be raised by the same parents. And of course, it's nature and it's nurture and it's that combination. But I really think based on my upbringing, that relates a lot to my identity as the oldest child and how I'm interested in this field.
Thank you so much for sharing that. How would you like to see yourself in a year from now? Like, what are the challenges that you're looking for? What are your objectives and dreams from now on?
I guess in terms of career-wise, I'm just starting my PhD. So right now I'm kind of planning my study and planning my papers, but by next year I will be actually analyzing my data and writing those papers. So I'm really looking forward to the opportunity to learn a lot of new skills. I think it relates a lot to what I said earlier about, you're scared when you don't know how to do all of the tasks that you need to do. And I definitely feel that fear still, but am confident in the mentors and the teachers and colleagues that I have that will help me achieve those goals that I have. So I would say professionally that. I think personally, I would like to be more confident in myself, which of course relates to the professional goals as well, but being more confident and finding a better balance in life. I think lately I've been thinking a lot about how important it is to really have a good work-life balance and really have kind of a calm state of mind. And so I'm trying to work on those things personally as well.
Thanks so much for sharing that. And you share about confidence. And I wonder, so it is very common for women suffer from imposter syndrome. And I wonder if you have ever felt that way and how did you deal with that? It could be in the beginning of your career or in the middle of it. So how did you deal with that feeling?
Yeah, it's actually something that we talked about a lot in my master's. I would say everyone I spoke to at my master's had imposter syndrome. And for me, the most helpful thing was just talking about it with my classmates, with my colleagues. Hearing that other people were also dealing with the same things really helps me a lot. And especially, I would talk to people that I thought were so unbelievably accomplished. Like they were my role models and they were having imposter syndrome. I'm like, well, if you don't think you could do it, how am I going to do it? But that made me feel a lot better, just realizing, everyone feels this way, and it doesn't really relate to the actual skills or achievements that you have. It's more just how you view yourself, how you compare yourself to others. So talking with others was really helpful. And I would say I also experienced it when I was teaching and tried to overcome it, I guess, if you will, just by learning more about what I had to do, by training myself, by studying, by asking others, hey, I don't know how to do this. Can you help me? Can you teach me? So trying to be proactive about gaining more skills that would give me more confidence.
I imagine this is a daily work, right? Like it's not something that just goes away very easily. So when that feeling, thought comes, what helps you on what feelings, what memories, what helps you calm down and remember, like, okay, Kristen is capable of doing this?
Yeah, it's actually funny. This brings me back to my college days. I played lacrosse when I was in college, and something my coach always said to me was just be calm and confident. And I had a little post-it in my locker that said calm and confident, and I also have it on my computer. That's a phrase that really sticks with me because I think it's so simple, so quick, so easy to remember. And I just try to kind of repeat that to myself when I'm feeling that way.
Thanks so much for sharing that. I know that's very helpful. As I mentioned, something that every girl/woman goes through. So it's very nice to hear from other people talking about it. And I have now is more of a personal curiosity, I have to admit. You said you are going to do research on childhood development for your grad work. And I wonder, how do you connect that? How do you connect research with action? Because that's something that always goes through our mind, because I do also love research. I think it's really interesting, especially in social science. But that connection between those two sometimes is a little blurry for me. So I would love to know what are your thoughts on that.
Yeah, so this is a great example of a question that I always ask in networking interviews. Every single person I talk to, I say, how do you feel about like your work and the impact it has on action? Or how do you work at the nexus of research and action? So I think it's a really great question and something that I think we all struggle with. There are some degrees that are more research focused and some that are more practice focused. So for instance, with my master's, I was looking at different universities, and some of them were really focused on just like writing a paper, writing a dissertation, and others were focused on more applying the knowledge. So I ended up choosing a university that would have us, instead of writing a paper, we would consult with the government and apply our knowledge. So I think choosing a program master's wise that really meets your needs in that way and that is really applied is important. And then in terms of the PhD work that I'm doing now, so the institute that I work at has a lot of collaborations in different countries, and that was something that was really important for me. So it wasn't just research that would kind of get published, but it was research that would hopefully be able to be used by governments in order to improve their policies, because we're working with the local governments to do the work that we're doing. So I think that's a really important piece. And always researching topics that are like implementable or scalable or actionable. So looking at things and saying, okay, the recommendations that I make at the end of my papers are things that I really hope a government could actually do. So taking the context into consideration when you're doing your conclusions or your analysis, etc.
I have one of the questions that I love the most, which is, what would you say to a girl who wants to, what would you say for a girl who is interested in social impact and who is interested in even childhood early development, or just any girl, like, what would you say to them? What is your advice for them for like facing life?
Yeah, this is a great question. I think there's a lot of answers I could give, but I think the three things come to mind. I think the first thing is something we already touched on a little bit, which was connect and network. So everything I said about networking previously, I think that it's one of the most important aspects of your career. I think it can be very uncomfortable, but I think it's really important. And the more you do it, the easier it gets. And I think especially for women, a lot of times women want to see other women in their workplace, and they're even more willing to reach out to you, help you out, support you in any way that you need. So I think that connecting is really important. Not only connecting with people that can help you, but connecting with people that you can help. I mean, trying to have kind of that horizontal relationship of maybe you're helping me now, but I can maybe help you in the future. So something that I try to do is if I'm connecting with someone and I have something I could offer them, maybe at the end I'll say, hey, if you're interested in connecting with this person, let me know and I can put you in touch. So trying to offer that. The second thing I would say is be confident and humble at the same time, which I think is a very difficult balance to strike, but that's something that my family was very big on teaching us to be humble. So I think that's extremely important. But I also think, especially as a woman, you need to stand up for yourself a lot of times and show your confidence, unfortunately. But I think it's really hard to do, but I think it's really important. So a lot of people say, fake it till you make it. But I really have noticed that there are a lot of people that really do that. I mean, there's a lot of people that you think have it all together, and you ask them and they're like, no, I just Googled it. I just figured it out this morning, So be confident in yourself. Never brag, but be confident. I think there's a very fine line there. And the third thing I would say is stick to what you're interested and work hard to get it. So I think that something that's helped me get where I am is just always working hard, meeting deadlines, doing my best at all times, and sticking to what I want. I mean, I think it's really easy to do the jobs that your friends are doing, or do the things that seem the easiest, or do the first job that comes along. But I think if you have the opportunity to stick to what you're really interested in, go for that, I think you will find opportunities. It might take a little longer than you'd like, but I think it really pays off in the end.
Thank you so much, Kristen, for your time, for your words. This was definitely a very amazing interview. I definitely feel that I've learned a lot, and I'm sure that whoever is watching this feels the same. It's so nice to hear from you and your advice and your story. It's just beautiful. So thank you so much.
No, thank you for your time, and thank you for inviting me. It's really nice to have these moments to be able to reflect. So I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of A Woman's Place. This podcast is produced by teenage girls like me from the Girls Galaxy community and She's the Universe, a global movement for girls empowerment.